Episode 65. Hello, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Dogman Encounters Radio. I'm Vic Cundiff, and I'll be your host as we listen to eyewitness encounters involving one of the most terrifying cryptids, dogmen. Our guest tonight is Jake Thompson. Jake, welcome to Dogman Encounters Radio. Thanks so much for coming.
Thank you.
Jake, please give us a brief bio on yourself.
Well, there's not anything too extraordinary about me. I've lived in Arkansas my entire life. I'm 26 years old now. Me and my wife were actually expecting our first baby here pretty soon, here in about 6 months. Up until I was, I think, 13, I lived in Searcy, Arkansas. And then after we moved from there, we moved up here to the Ash Flat area, which is pretty close to Hardy, Arkansas, if you know where that is. It's not too far from the Missouri border. Searcy, where I used to live, it's maybe an hour drive north of Little Rock. The area in Searcy was quite a bit different from the area up here where I live now. Up here, there's a lot of mountains, and it's a real rocky area, but Searcy was much flatter and more of a swampy type terrain. Other than that, I don't really know a whole lot else of any significance to tell you about myself.
When you were living in the Searcy area, did any of your family members ever have any encounters with dogmen? If they did, please don't share the particulars of those encounters with us yet, but just curious to find out if any of them did.
Well, years later, it was actually fairly recently, in the past few years, I've learned that my grandparents had, I wouldn't really call them encounters, but they know of just some strange things that happen around where they live, because they lived just down the road from where we did at the time.
That type of area would be a very good area for a dogman to hide out, so I'm not surprised you did have activity like you did, like the listeners are going to hear about tonight. You mentioned that Searcy is kind of a swampy area. Not having been down there to know, is there a heavy deer population down there? What kind of food resources would a dogman or maybe even a Sasquatch have access to?
There was quite a bit of game. There was a lot of turkey and a lot of deer. Actually, the area where we lived, about maybe a quarter mile behind our property, there is a bayou called the Desert Bayou that ran through. It had a lot of fish in it and an ungodly amount of snakes everywhere, just water moccasins. If you were ever walking through there, you had to be careful because during certain parts of the year, those snakes were everywhere, very thick. You wouldn't necessarily see the wildlife a whole lot unless you were out looking for them, but there was a pretty thick population of all kinds of things.
Yeah, in areas like that, I can't see there being any problem feeding something even as large as a dogman, so that's not all that surprising. Without telling us the particulars of your first encounter yet, how old were you when you had that first encounter?
I was about 12.
Right around 12. Back then, were you into Bigfoot and other cryptids like that?
Not really. The most I'd ever heard about something like a Bigfoot was my dad would tell me when he was younger, when he was in his 20s, he worked around the Texarkana area. And, that's where they have the Boggy Creek monster that, they had that documentary about. He worked in a forest tower, I believe it was, and his job was to watch out for forest fires. And so he kind of lived up in the tower by himself most of the time. And he would tell me about stories that he had heard from other people about there being, some kind of strange creature that lived around there. But other than him mentioning that to me, I didn't really think about it a whole lot at the time.
Yeah, having a job like that, I can only imagine what kind of access he'd have to stories like that. The Boggy Creek incidents had been going on for some time before you were even born. By the time you were 12, I'm sure that the area had quite a bit of activity still, so I'm not surprised to hear that he might have heard stories about things like that going on in that area.
Mm-hmm. What he was telling me about, the experiences he was telling me about, was maybe 20 years before I was even born. Well, maybe not 20, but maybe like 10 or 15 years before I even came along. It was when he was a younger man.
Yeah, that sounds right as far as timing goes. Well, Jake, let's jump right into this first encounter that you had. You said you were around 12ish or so. What led you to be in the location where you had that encounter?
Well, you mentioned before we lived at the end of a dead-end road. It was a gravel road. The road just kind of stopped and gradually turned into somewhat of like a four-wheeler trail, and that was basically what it was. On the right side of the road, there was a forested area, maybe, 80 acres, 90 acres, something like that, of forest. And then there was another 80 acres of field on the other side of that. On almost all sides of that forest, there was some kind of crop field. I think it was mostly soybean that they had through there. I was walking down this wood line that was next to this particular patch of forest. And I was just strolling down the trail there. I've always been kind of an outdoorsy person. I just like wandering around out there. I think at that particular time I was looking for arrowheads maybe, because I remember I found one time, and so that kind of got me in gear to want to go out and look around more just to see what I could get into. I was walking down the trail after it had turned into the four-wheeler trail. I kind of just wasn't paying attention to anything really, just kind of bebopping down there. And I hear a loud commotion coming from inside the forested area. It was off in a distance when I first heard it, but I heard that it was coming closer towards my direction. These two white-tailed deer, they were does, just kind of bursted out of the wood line and took off across the field. They were really booking it, and they didn't pay me any attention. I was maybe 20 yards, something like that, away from them. So they just took off across the road in front of me and took off across the field, because after you got across the field, you would get back to another forested area, which was really thick, and it was unbroken for a long time. So they were taking off towards there, and maybe 3 or 4 seconds behind them, this really humongous dog came running out on all fours. At the time, I didn't think a whole lot of it, other than that it was just really, really big. It was just a really huge dog. And with us having a German Shepherd kennel at the time, I was familiar with how big they were, and this dog was a lot bigger than them. It was even bigger than the deer were. I don't know if you've ever got to stand next to a white-tailed deer, but they'll come up to about your belt line is where their back is. It was quite a bit taller than even they were, so it was a huge dog. It was a little bit misshapen. It looked like its front legs were a little longer than they should have been, and that put a little bit of a slope to its back, almost like a hyena, but maybe not that extreme of a slope, but it was a little bit. But other than that, I didn't think a whole lot of it. After I saw that run out of the woods chasing the deer, it really didn't pay me any attention at all. It never looked at me or broke its stride or anything. As it was taking off across the field after them, I kind of just decided to go ahead and head on back to the house and just call it a day for then.
I can't say I blame you. You mentioned that this hyena-looking dog had front legs that were longer than its back legs. Was its running style ungainly in nature, or did it look pretty fluid?
No, it looked very smooth. To me, it looked like just the way a normal dog would run. Just reaching out a little bit further with its front legs than normal, because it had a little bit more of a stride. But other than that, it seemed pretty normal. At the time, I just assumed that maybe one of the farmers that lived down the road bought some humongous exotic dog or something, and it was out running around.
That had to be quite the sight to see. As it's going after those deer, did you hear it make any sounds?
No, I didn't hear the dog-looking creature make any sound. Earlier, when the deers were coming through the woods, I heard them kind of let out that little sound that they make. If something startles them, they'll do that sound. I heard that, but at the time I didn't know what a deer really sounded like, so I didn't know what that was until they came out of the woods. But as far as the dog-looking thing, no, I never heard it make any sound.
What can you tell us about its appearance as far as the coat goes?
The coat was pretty average looking. It was a little bit longer than our German Shepherds would be. It was a little bit more shaggy, but it was proportioned out really similar. It didn't have a really big mane to it or anything, but it had a little bit thicker hair across its back. Portions of it was more brownish, and then it had more darker portions to it. It was broken up between brown and black and just a little bit here and there. But it didn't look really ghoulish or anything. It just looked like a normal, well put together animal.
You said it looked like a dog with unusually long front legs. I take it its back legs were canine in structure, or were they more man-like in structure?
No, they just look like a regular dog's legs, other than them being very big. I remember that this creature, it had very muscular back legs too, but with something that size, you would just assume that it would. I honestly didn't think there was anything too extremely unusual about that at the time, other than its size and it being a little bit misshapen.
You know how it is. Sometimes when you see something that would normally be scary, for whatever reason, you're not scared at that moment. Blame it on shock, it's hard to say, but when you saw this going on, since its attention was focused on the deer, did a bolt of fear run right down your spine, or were you pretty much just a spectator at the moment?
I kind of felt like I was a spectator. I mean, it did surprise me a little bit when it came tearing out of the woods after him because I just wasn't expecting to see anything like that. I wasn't even thinking that there was anything chasing them. I thought maybe they had just heard me walking and that's what made them take off. But no, there was something going after him, and from the way he was running, he was gaining on them, and I'm pretty sure he got at least one of them after they got back into the woods. But like I said before, I wasn't going to necessarily stick around and see what happened after.
Yeah, I don't think anyone could blame you. If you consider the fact that white-tailed deer allegedly top out at around 35 miles an hour, for it to gain on them the way you said you saw it doing, that's a very unnerving thought.
If it wanted to change its attention to come after me, it would have had me in maybe 3 or 4 seconds. It would have caught up to me. I would have never been able to make it back to the house without it getting on me.
Oh, I'd say. After seeing something like that, you knew at the moment that it would never be the same. I'm sure of that.
Yeah, it was concerning even then.
Yeah, I'd say so. Please tell us about this second encounter you had.
I want to say that this was a few weeks later. It could have been a month later. I'm not real sure on my timeline, but our family were very much nighttime people because we've all worked night shift pretty much our entire life. We would do like floor cleaning jobs kind of all over the state, and we're just always used to being up at night all the time. So it was around midnight maybe, give or take a little bit. My mother had asked me to run the trash out. So after I was done procrastinating and doing everything but that, I finally went ahead and grabbed a couple bags of trash and started walking it out to the fence. The trash cans were just on the other side of the fence. It was about a 5-foot chain link fence where we kept all of our dogs. I could have just thrown the bags over the fence, but for whatever reason, I always just opened the gate and went outside and shut the gate behind me. So I go outside the fence and I'm lugging the trash bags into the cans just down the fence line from me because this portion of the fence line ran parallel to the gravel road, and on the other side of the gravel road was the wood line. If you went down to the end of the fence and turned where the fence turned, it went into a pine tree grove. Like I said, I was lugging the trash into the can, and I hear something kind of push off of the gravel. Because, you know, the gravel's really audible. You can't walk on it and not make a crunching noise. I hear something really violently push off of the gravel and tear off through the pine trees again. In my head, because I didn't see what did it, I had a flashlight with me, but it was just a real cheap little $3 flashlight. You know, it wasn't like a spotlight. You couldn't really see anything with it. In my head, I'm thinking some of the dogs may have gotten out of the fence or something. It wasn't uncommon for them. We'd have 15 or so dogs in the yard at a time, and it wasn't really uncommon for them to get out of the fence either by climbing onto something and jumping over or either digging under and getting out. It wasn't uncommon for them to get out of the fence and run around, just to be difficult. So me assuming that it was just one of the dogs, I take off running over there towards it. I get around the corner of the fence and I turn the corner. I've got the light in front of me and I can hear something moving away from me. As I'm moving towards it and it's moving away from me, I'm close enough to the outside of the fence where I can reach over and touch it. I'm just right there next to it. I'm going through the woods a little bit because this portion of the fence was right up against the pine trees. I am going through there. 2 of the dogs are in front of me inside the fence, really going nuts, barking at whatever is in front of me. I just assumed that it was just another one of the dogs. As I'm following it down the fence line, getting a little bit deeper into the pine grove, I get parallel with where our house is, where I could shine the light inside the fence and see where the house is. So I do that, and I see that all but two of our dogs are under the house. I can clearly see them. They're all there. The house wasn't too far from where I was. I counted them, and they were all just kind of huddled under there. So that let me know that whatever I was going toward wasn't what I thought it was. It wasn't one of the dogs. I had a little bit of a panic feeling, thinking, oh my God, I could have been chasing anything back here. Who knows? So I turn around and I scuttle back inside the fence, and I go back in the house for a little bit. At this point, I'm somewhat curious as to what it was, because it was uncommon for these dogs to get that scared of anything, especially out there. There's not really bear or anything like that. So I go back out maybe 30 minutes later, and I've got my little weak flashlight again. Our alpha dog, Braun, he was kind of the leader of the pack, I guess you could say. He was the daddy dog of everybody. He was kind of staying in one particular area, and it was pretty close to where I was standing before when I shined the light and noticed that the dogs were under the house. So I start making my way over towards him, and I shine the light on him, and he's just going berserk, just really flipping out. He's barking and growling, and he's got like a real viciousness to his barks. So I shine the light over to him, and then I look at what he's barking at that's just on the other side of the fence, and it's another dog, but it's humongous. All I could really see was the head, because there was a little bit of vegetation at this particular spot. There's this humongous gray-looking dog. It's pressing his head up against the fence, and he's actually bowing in the chain link fence. He's pressing that hard. Our big dog, Braun, he was this 130, 150-pound German Shepherd. He's a huge dog. He's just going berserk, and he hates that this thing is touching his fence. He was very territorial. And so he's biting at its head, and he's swiping at it. But this thing is looking past Braun, and he's looking at the dogs that are still under the house. It was almost like he was trying to somewhat intimidate them into staying under the house. And he wasn't really paying attention to Braun, even though he was swiping at his head and everything. There was just a thin layer of chain link fence in between them. I remember this thing's head was, 3 or 4 times bigger than Braun's, and he was a huge dog for a German Shepherd. After I shined the light on it, it kind of ignored me a little bit. It didn't pay any attention to me. After I shined the light on it, I watched it for maybe 5 or 10 seconds. It kind of sprung back and took off through the woods again, and it was gone. So that was something that kind of aroused my curiosity a little bit. I was wondering how there could be a dog that big and why it would be looking at our other dogs that way. He was looking at them like they were a little Debbie snack or something. He just didn't have any regard for them. So I go back in the house again. At this point, I'm kind of freaking out a little bit. I don't say anything to anybody. It was just my mom and my younger brother, who was, I think he was like 3 at the time. They were inside the house. I think she was either giving him a bath or getting ready to put him to bed or something. So I just stay in the house for a few minutes. The more I sit in the house, the more curious I get. The more I'm thinking, if there's really a dog that big, I've got to go try to take a look at it again. I got to see what it's doing, if it's trying to get in the yard to eat the dog food or whatever. I didn't have any idea. So I come back outside maybe an hour after that, after I kind of get myself together a little bit. I've still got this cheap flashlight, but now Braun has turned his attention to the portion of the fence that the trash cans were up against. This is the part of the fence where just on the other side of the fence there's a gravel road, and then immediately where the road stops, the forest starts. He's got his attention up on that part of the fence, and again, he's just going berserk with a really vicious bark. I remember that made an impression on me at the time, because I had never heard him be that vicious in the way that his bark sounded. And, he was growling and, foaming, and he was just going nuts. So I walk halfway across the yard, and I'm looking at him, and I start shining the flashlight in the direction that he's barking, and I don't see anything at all. So I walk pretty much all the way up to him. I'm giving him a little bit of distance because he's going berserk, and I don't want him to freak out and turn around and knock me over or something. But I just keep shining the light over there, and I'm talking to him. I'm trying to get him calmed down. But he obviously knew that there was something there, and I just couldn't see it. I'm swiping the light across the wood line, and I don't see anything. And then all of a sudden, boom, just right there, right in front of where I was standing. It must have been on all fours behind some bushes, but I shined the light on it again, and it was just standing there. It was just standing there, and it was looking directly at me. He was ignoring Braun. He was just looking at me. And I could be wrong because it was really shocking at the time, but it looked like it had to be at least 7 feet tall. He had these really yellow-orange eyes, and I could see it from about the waist up. Like I said, he was standing on the other side of some bushes, but it wasn't but maybe 10 yards away from me. It was just however much distance, a one-lane gravel road. That's how far away. He was just standing there just staring at me, and he had his head tilted down a little bit. He was almost looking, like how someone would look over a pair of glasses, that have their head tilted. That's how he was looking. And he had really pointy ears that stood up just like a German Shepherd. And he was gray all over. He wasn't super, super massive and muscular, but he looked well built. The word that I would use to describe the way it looked is just, it looked quick. It looked like it could be super fast and agile. When the light hit it, and it was standing there, Braun kind of turned his attention towards me, and he starts jumping on the fence where he's hitting the fence, and then he would hit the ground and bounce back up and hit my chest. It was clear that, the dog was trying to communicate to me that he wanted me to leave. He was trying to push me back into the house. And this thing, it didn't hardly move. It just blinked 1 or 2 times, and I could see its ears kind of twitching a little bit, but it was just giving me a really cold stare. It wasn't snarling or anything like that, just a really cold stare. It was like the only reason that it stood up was just so I could see it. That was really disturbing to me, and Braun kept trying to push me back in the house, and at one point he almost knocked me on the ground completely, but he would never turn his attention away from this thing for very long at a time. I shined the light on it as much as I could, even with the dog trying to wrestle me back inside. I didn't say anything. I didn't make any noises. It was just really, really disturbing. And it eventually kind of popped back down, and I could hear it run off again. I didn't see it again. I never saw it really clearly, as clear as I did then. I never saw it like that again. But that was the time that I got a confirmation that it was more than just a big dog.
When it ran off, did it run off on all fours or 2 legs?
All I saw is I saw it dip back down really fast behind the bushes that it popped up from, and then I could hear it run off. But I couldn't hear it well enough to know the stride because our big dog, Braun, he was still freaking out and going nuts. So he was kind of drowning out anything else.
As you're looking back and forth through the woods with that flashlight and all of a sudden, boom, there it is, you see it. Did you see motion as it was standing up, or when you hit it with the beam, was it already standing up on 2 legs?
When I hit it with the beam, it was already up. It was very dark, and the flashlight that I had was too cheap to really illuminate too big of an area, so I swept it over this area one time, and then I swept it back again maybe 2 seconds later, and it was there where it wasn't before. It's like it was watching me from like a lower position in the bushes, and then decided that it wanted me to see that it was there. But I never saw it stand up. Whatever it did it very smooth and didn't make any noise.
Did this second dogman look anything like that first dogman you saw that day chasing the deer?
I didn't really think about this at the time. I assumed it was the same one, but this one, its colors were different. This one was mostly gray. The one that I saw before didn't have much gray on it at all. It was more tan and black, or maybe like a brownish and black, and it was broken up more. But this one was just one solid color. It was just gray.
At this point in your life, you have had 2 encounters with dogmen. Had anything strange been going on in the area before you had those two encounters to maybe let you know that something was going on, something strange was in the area?
Before then, no, not at all. At that age, whenever I did go out in the woods or when I did go walk around, I was not paying attention to anything. I was just kind of looking at the ground, looking for arrowheads or just looking to see what I could get into. But no, I'd never noticed anything else before then.
I can't believe you had the nerve to go back out there after experiencing what you had experienced just about an hour before. You had some brass.
Well, I didn't really get the full scope of it until I saw it standing upright. And then I realized it was something more than just some big dog that was messing with our dogs.
Yeah, that would leave an impression on you. I don't care who you are. You mentioned your mother and your younger brother were inside the house. I'm foggy on whether you did or didn't mention this activity to your mother.
When I went inside the first time after it was on all fours, I'm pretty sure it was, when I could just see the head and it was pressing up against the fence, I went inside and said that it looked like there was a really big dog outside the fence messing with our other dogs. And that's pretty much all I said. Of course, you don't really think much of that. I don't remember what she said, but it wasn't anything real significant or nothing. She mentioned that she was going to tell my dad when he got home from work, and he would go out and look for it and see if there was anything that he needed to do.
Well, it's a good thing your dad was so open-minded.
Well, I actually didn't mention the time that I saw it standing up. When I went back in the house after that, I did not mention that to anybody for years. I didn't say a word. I couldn't really find a way to say it without me looking really crazy or something. And even to myself, I wondered if I could have actually seen that. It was there standing in front of me, but I just couldn't bring myself to fully believe that I saw what I did for quite a while after that.
From what I understand, that wasn't your last experience with one of these things. What happened after that incident?
Well, after that happened, I didn't go back outside for a good little bit, maybe a few weeks or a month or something, but my curiosity did eventually kind of get the better of me, and I just had to know. I had to know if I could see it again, or what it was, or if I saw something wrong, or what. Now, I couldn't justify in my head that it was a bear, or that it was anything else, but I just had to know more. So I started going outside at night. This time I stayed inside the fence. We had like an acre and a half that was fenced in because we had all the dogs and they needed room to run around and get exercise. So we had a pretty big fenced in area. But part of the fence on I think it was the northeast side of the fence, I mentioned there was pine groves around portions of the fence. In the northeast corner of the fence, part of the pine grove was actually fenced in into being part of the yard. So it was almost like there was a small wooded area inside the fence. So I go out one night, and I went out every night for a while, as much as I could get away with. And like I said, I was used to being up all night anyway, because I was homeschooled, so I didn't have to worry about getting up early and doing anything. I could just kind of do my work at my own pace as long as I got it done. So I would stay up all night and just sit out there and listen and wait to see what would happen. One particular night, this time all the dogs were out. It wasn't just Braun. All of the dogs were out in the yard, and they were really going nuts in the corner of the yard where these trees were inside the fence. Of course, on the other side of the fence, the grove continued for a couple acres, and then it turned back into natural forest again, because this pine grove, it was something that was man-made. It was something that somebody planted, so the trees were in rows really close to each other, but they were mature trees. Some of them were just big enough to hug, and that's about it. Maybe like a couple of feet around. But all of the dogs, there was over a dozen of them, they were all in this area, and they were all just going berserk. Which I thought was strange because it was kind of rare, especially when you have the one alpha dog, Braun. You didn't really see him and the other male dogs around each other very often. They did not get along. German Shepherds are very similar-minded to how a wolf pack is, so you just didn't have that type of dynamic. So I was surprised to see that they were all over there together. all focusing in on one particular thing and just really going nuts and having the real vicious barks. I kind of make my way over there to where they are, and again, this is at night. This time I didn't have a flashlight with me. I don't know why not. Maybe I couldn't find it, or I didn't have fresh batteries for it or something. I don't remember. I make my way over there to where that little grove is inside the fence where the dogs were. They had been going nuts for maybe an hour, just nonstop, making all kinds of racket. I stand maybe 10 feet behind them as they're jumping on the fence and really getting after it. All of a sudden, all of the dogs just stopped. They just went from, really chaotic sounding to just nothing. And they were really quiet, and they were all watching. They all had their ears up, and the hair on their back was standing up, and they were really tense, and they were just all watching toward this one direction. And then I hear something. At first, it was in the distance. I could hear really rapid steps, and they sounded like it was something on two legs. It didn't sound like a four-legged stride, but it was just a really rapid two-legged stride. When something's coming at you, even when you don't see it, you can tell that it's coming towards you rather than away from you, because the sound gets louder. And this was coming towards the fence, towards where I was. And it's getting closer and closer. At the time, it felt like I could hear it for a long time, but it was probably just maybe 3 seconds or something. After I hear the steps and this thing tearing off towards the fence, the dogs just explode again, and this time they all jump up on the fence at the same time. They're all up on two legs, and they've got their front paws on the fence, and they're just as loud as they can and trying to sound as aggressive as they could. You got 12 German Shepherds making a bunch of noise. I hear it stop. I couldn't hear it very well anymore because of the dogs, but I could hear it come to a stop, and I could hear it slide. Like it stopped itself really quickly, and it was not far from where the fence was. It sounded like it was maybe 15 yards from the fence, which with this pine grove, you could hear something making steps because the pine needles on the ground were really thick, and you could hear it come to a slide, and it stopped. Then I heard something making its way up a tree. It's almost like you could hear claws, and you could hear that real soft pine tree bark getting ripped into, and you could hear something making its way up a tree really fast. And then you hear it go from that tree to another tree, which these trees were only a couple of feet apart. It wouldn't have been that difficult for it to do it. You hear it transition from tree to tree in like a staggered pattern, and it's getting closer. And at this point, I'm kind of taking a few steps back. I could hear something moving from the trees over the sound of the dogs barking, but I couldn't make out really where it was. It was really dark that night. It wasn't particularly well lit with the moon or anything. I noticed that the dogs turned their attention from the other side of the fence to now they're barking up a tree that's inside the fence. So evidently whatever it was had made its way from tree to tree until it had arranged itself to where it was on the side of the fence that I was on. It was inside the fence with us now. I could hear it over the sound of the dogs. It would make these really deep growling noises. It wasn't really loud. It was just, it's hard to describe, just a really bassy, low growl. The dogs were all huddled up around this one particular tree. I'm assuming that's where it was, and that's where the noise was coming from, was that one. But it never came down the tree, and I never got a good look at it. As it transitioned back to another tree a few minutes later, and it never came down. I could see it transition to another tree in the same pattern that it came in. I didn't get a good enough look at it to really make out like a shape. I could just see a really dark figure going back from tree to tree. And then when it got across the fence a little ways, I could hear it hit the ground. Boom! And then you could hear those same steps that they were going in the opposite direction. Now they were going back off towards the bayou and towards where the woods got really thick again. After that night, I stopped going back outside at night for a while, because I knew that whatever it was trying to get inside the fence for some reason. I don't know that it was scared of the dogs, because from whatever I saw before standing up, I knew that it was big enough to take a few of the dogs, but I'm not sure that it was confident enough to drop itself down in the middle of a dozen. It's hard to explain, but for whatever reason, it never came in the yard that I know of, but I know that it wanted to. After it jumped down out of the tree again and I heard it hit the ground and I heard it run off, that was the last time that I had really seen or heard anything really substantial after that.
Did you tell any of your family members about this incident?
I did tell them, but it was years before I mentioned it. We were listening to another talk show where they talk about different things like that, with us being out at night all the time. We were listening to, I think it was Coast to Coast, and someone that lived in an area that wasn't very far from where we lived called in. And this woman also had a dog kennel. I can't remember what she had. I think maybe, if I remember right, she had maybe Dobermans. But she had a kennel of Dobermans, I think they were. She described the exact same thing as what it was doing with our dogs. It would walk the fence line, and it would harass her dogs, and it would try to intimidate them into backing off. And one night she had a flashlight, and she did see it standing up. After I heard someone say that, and just the way that she described it in the show, it was almost as if she was standing there next to me and saw the same exact thing I did. After I heard that, a couple of days later, I did mention it to my dad that I did see something that looked like a dog that was standing up, and it was, really gigantic, and it was trying to intimidate the other dogs, just like how this other person was describing. But before then, I didn't even know where to start to try to tell somebody. It just sounds so bizarre and so weird, you just don't know how to bring it up. But after I had heard that at least one other person had seen something like that, I felt comfortable enough to tell my dad.
When you're sitting there in the truck with your dad listening to Coast, as this woman's talking about this encounter that she's had that's so similar to the one that you had, I'm sure you're sitting there watching your dad trying to decide if you're going to share the details of the encounter, or I should say encounters you had at that point with him. What's going through your head? Was he seemingly open to what this woman was saying, or was he acting like he was skeptical about her story?
As I was listening to this other person talk about it, I was just really focused on what she was saying. Because when she started talking, and she started talking about how there was a huge, gigantic gray dog that would walk her fence line at night and harass her other dogs, I started paying really close attention. I can only imagine that me sitting in the back of the truck, I was really wide-eyed, and I think I asked them to turn it up so I could hear it better. I didn't pay much attention to what anybody else was doing because I was just really focused to hear what she was going to say next, because I knew if she says that she has seen this thing stand up, and that is exactly what I saw too. So before I told him, I didn't really pay any attention to what anyone else in the truck was doing.
Yeah, I can't say I'll blame you. I'm sure you had to be floored as you're sitting there listening to this woman recount an encounter that was so similar to the one that you had. That's perfectly expected.
Yeah, it was actually a huge relief to me to know that I'm not the only person that had seen something weird like this.
That's really common. Through all this, when you were living in Searcy like that, did you ever have an incident where one of your dogs, or dogs plural, got killed?
Every so often, a dog would get out of the fence. Most of the time, they would just run around the woods and do whatever they wanted to, and then they would come back. But on a couple of different times, the dog would never come back. And I just don't know what else out there could have killed one of them dogs. Maybe there was other stuff out there that I didn't know about. There's people that say that they've seen like big cat cougars out there before. So maybe that's what got them, but it kind of makes you wonder. I'm just not sure.
It sure does make you wonder. It would seem that these things do have an appetite for dogs given certain circumstances, so that just might be what happened.
With me growing up around German Shepherds, you kind of get a feel for what different expressions that you see on their face, how they act. You kind of get a feel for what they're thinking. From the way this thing was looking at the other dogs, to me it looked like it was a big alpha dog trying to put other dogs in its place. And I think it was really frustrated that it couldn't get our big dog Braun to go under the house. I think it was frustrated that Braun wouldn't cave to it. But it just really seemed like it was a big alpha dog trying to put the other dogs in their place. so he could come in the fence and do whatever he wanted to.
You mentioned its skull looked to be about 3 times the size of Braun's skull. If Braun didn't back off to this thing, he must have had some brass.
Oh, yeah. He was a really good dog. We've had a lot of really good dogs before, but I'm confident in saying that I'll never see another dog like him again. He was extremely intelligent and really big and muscular for a German Shepherd. It almost looked like somebody had mixed a German Shepherd and a Pit Bull. He had huge shoulders, and he was really dense, and he was super intelligent. He was the smartest dog that I've ever been around. He's very protective. He was a good dog.
Braun sounds like he was a keeper to me.
Oh, yeah, he was. He was with all the dogs that we've ever had, with us having that kennel, we've been through hundreds of dogs, and that was the only dog that when it died, my dad actually cried when he died. And I'd never seen him cry over a dog before.
I can understand why he did. After that encounter in the pine grove that night, did you have any other incidents with activity?
Not me personally. It wasn't maybe a few months after that happened. And like I said, I didn't really go back outside much after that when I knew that it had found a way to get inside the fence without the dogs being able to get it with it climbing the tree. But after that, I didn't really go back out, and it wasn't a few months later. We actually had a house fire there, and the house completely burned to the ground. It was a total loss. A few months later, we wound up moving up here to northern Arkansas.
Sorry to hear about the house burning down.
Yeah, that was a bummer.
Yeah, I'd say. That's a hard one to get over. Once you moved up north, did you have any incidents happen?
Not any dogman type stuff. There has been some with me and everybody else that lives up here. There's been a lot of Bigfoot type encounters. As far as things like throwing rocks at you and making strange noises in the woods. We've even got to see them a couple of times. There's a few of us that have seen them. They've even came so far as to come up to the house and look in the window. But they don't come off as being super dangerous. They seem like they're really big animals and they could be dangerous. But they seem like the only reason that you would ever see them is just because they're very curious as to what people are doing.
Yeah, having them look in the window, that would get your attention.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure it does. What about the bow hunter who went back into the woods that time? Where did that happen?
Yeah, that was back in Searcy. This was, if my recollection is right, of course this was a long time ago, and I could have my timelines off here, but there was just some guy on a four-wheeler. I don't know who he was or anything, but I just happened to be up and around at this part of the day. I think it was early morning. And I hear somebody coming down the gravel road, and he's on his four-wheeler. He's kind of taking his time, putting down the trail. He gets onto the four-wheeler trail, and he goes up maybe 40 acres, and then he makes a turn where the field stops and the woods start again. And he cuts across the field that way, and then he cuts off into the woods again. I watched him ride back there for probably 5 minutes. He was covering a lot of ground, but he was taking his time. He was decked out like a typical person you'd expect to see going hunting. He had a really nice crossbow. It had to be like a $500 or $600 crossbow. And he had a little hunting ball cap, and he was all decked out in the appropriate camouflage for the area. And I remember he was in a good mood, even when he rode by me and him exchanged waves. He took off back there, and I could hear him faintly as he got back into the woods. I could hear the four-wheeler shut off. And I just kind of didn't pay any more attention to him. I just assumed he was just somebody going back there to hunt. Whenever he was done, I'd maybe see him come back out with a deer or something. But I was out in the yard kind of playing around and roughhousing with the dogs. And I hear the four-wheeler start back up again, not 10 minutes after it shut off. And I hear it just, you can tell when somebody's really pushing the throttle on something. It'll have that loud whine to it. He was pushing it. Way across the field, I see him come out of the wood line. But this time, he doesn't go around the field on the trail. He cuts straight through the field. He cuts right across it. As he gets closer, I can start to see the expression on his face. He's constantly looking behind him, like he was expecting a T-Rex to come busting out of the woods chasing him. He was really wide-eyed, and he was looking behind him constantly, and he was really, really letting that four-wheeler go full out. As he's coming back, I noticed his hat's missing. I don't see it anywhere on the four-wheeler. And he doesn't have his crossbow anymore. That was missing too. He just gets back out across field. He eventually makes it across, and he hits the gravel road again, and he was gone. And he was going even faster now that he wasn't being slowed down by the thick dirt of the field. As fast as that thing could go, he was gone, and I never saw him again. He never came back out hunting. And after him, I never saw anybody else go hunting out there again. So it makes you wonder what he saw out there that made him feel like he had to drop everything and leave that urgently.
Whatever it was that he did see, it left an impression on him, that's for sure.
Yeah, he looked like he was freaking out pretty bad.
Yeah, sounds like the word must have gotten out amongst the hunters in that area that that was a bad place to go to.
Evidently.
I'd say so. If you don't mind, let's touch a little more on these incidents that happened at your grandparents' house in Searcy. From what I understand, you said that once your mom knew about your encounters with this strange creature, she told you about some incidents that had happened at her parents' house. Could you go into more detail on what they experienced?
Everything that I know about from this is just secondhand, just from what she has told me that they've told her. Because, like I said, they lived, maybe a quarter mile down the road from us. I used to walk down to their house almost every day. They were just right there. My grandpa would say that during certain times of the year, I never heard what time of the year that was, but during certain times of the year, there would be something that would come up in their yard, and it would even beat the side of the house. And they could hear something kind of scratching the side of the house as if it was claws or something. And they would smell like a really nasty odor in the air. But as far as I know, they never actually saw anything because these things would happen at night. And if I remember right, they did have trouble every so often with something coming up and killing their cats and dogs that they had. Other than that, I haven't got a whole lot of information out of them about that. Just from the way that I thought about it, with me seeing it and not wanting to say anything to anybody, I can only imagine that if someone did see it, they tried to forget it, or that they, didn't want to say anything just because I couldn't have seen that. Maybe my medication's off or something. I mean, I don't know. But I could see why maybe they wouldn't want to say anything if they did see something.
That had to be awfully hard on them to experience things like that. Moving on, Jake, you mentioned the Bigfoot encounters that you had. I might as well go ahead and let the cat out of the bag now. In production right now was another talk radio show that I'm going to be releasing fairly soon called Bigfoot Eyewitness Radio. Would you be interested in being a guest on Bigfoot Eyewitness Radio once I've got it ready to air?
Sure. I could go on a lot longer about that because pretty much when we moved up here, we live in an area that's way out in the middle of nowhere, just in the middle of the woods. And for probably the past 10 or 12 years, we've all been running into these different things. It's been pretty neat. It's made it interesting to live here.
So that you know, Bigfoot Eyewitness Radio is going to be cut from the same mold as Dogman Encounters. It's going to be a less is more type format. It's going to be straight to the point. If you or any of the family members that you told me about in the pre-interview who have had these encounters would be interested in coming on, the more the merrier. I'd love to have you on.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure I could drum up a few people because just about everybody that's been out here knows that there is something out here. There's been a few of us that have actually got to see them on rare occasions.
You said this is Hardy, Arkansas, where all this is going on.
Yeah, we actually live in Ash Flat. It's 2 towns over from Hardy. One of the places that I work is in Hardy. It's maybe a 25-minute drive from here, so it's pretty close to Hardy, yeah.
In the pre-interview, you mentioned that you've had all these Bigfoot encounters and also mentioned the fact that all of your friends know about these Bigfoot encounters you've had. After that, you mentioned that you haven't shared the fact that you've had these Dogman encounters with those same friends. What's the reasoning behind that?
It seems like someone could really seem that it was unlikely that, he sees Bigfoots and now he says that he's seen something else too, but I can't really tell you why. I just never brought it up to any of them. Even the people that's been out here that have been standing next to me and seen one of these things, they know that there's something out here. I've never brought it up to them at all. Too off the wall.
To me, it's not all that surprising. Bigfoot's a lot more readily accepted than Dogman, so I can't say I'll blame you there. The same friends who openly accept the existence of Bigfoot just might laugh at you if you had shared the fact that you had these encounters with Dogman with them, so that does make sense. Well, it's about time to close the show out here, Jake. Do you have any closing comments you'd like to share?
I know a lot of people that like to go out in the woods and they have a really nonchalant attitude, like there's nothing out there that they don't know about or that can't hurt them or something. Or you'll hear people say things even about Bigfoot, well, a Bigfoot's never killed anybody in the woods. Well, how do you know that? How do you know that there's not a Bigfoot or God knows what else out there that is going to kill you or that hasn't killed somebody before? If you're out in the woods by yourself and something kills you, nobody's ever going to know what got you. People don't think about that. People don't think that it's really dangerous out there and that they need to be ready and have whatever they need to have